what you guys have done. This place is beautiful. I was asked, how was your first year pioneering churches? Hey guys, this is state of the art compared to where I pioneered. In the Philippines, I was pioneered in the boonies, in the fields, mosquitoes and pigs and cattle and what have you. Puerto Rico, we were in my living room, just different places. And even some of the churches that I've had, doesn't compare to this. This place is really nice. So give yourselves a big hand clap. Um, all those little touches that you guys have in the bathroom, you got this, I saw your little container. All those things count, guys. For gas, that counts. That's huge. And I'm telling you, you guys are doing such an excellent job. Great job. All right, I'm going to try to preach. I've not preached this message. You guys get to hear this one first. I've not even preached it in my church. And I've entitled this message this morning, I See You. ISSEEYOU/I See You. Play on word. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, Exodus chapter 3, verses, we'll start at verse 7, I believe. Or do we have, I guess, I'm telling you, if we have time, we'll read some scriptures. Exodus chapter 3. Then the Lord told him, this is the Lord speaking to Moses of the burning bush. Then the Lord told him, verse 7, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. Cool. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and led them out of Egypt and into their own fertile and spacious land. I'm reading out of the NLT. It is a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. Look, the Bible says, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen, say seen, somebody. Seen. I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people out of Israel, out of Egypt. Okay. My son, who is about 36 now. 32. Sorry, Brad. Hope you're not watching this. 32. Sorry, bro. 32. When I was about 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old, we had this apartment in Highland Park. Well, three, four or five, somewhere around there. And bro, that guy was just so, remember the TV show, kids say the darndest things? Yeah. That was it, kids? And he would say the darndest thing. We'd be in the bathroom, right? I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to keep it PG. We'd be in the bathroom, and then we'd hear the voice, I can see your body. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Little kid. They go a little, not, it's whatever. He's just messing around. All right? I want to say this morning to you and I that we serve a God that sees us. Wherever you are, at whatever situation you are in life, you and I, we need to understand that we have a God that sees us. The Bible says, I have seen my people. He has heard their cries, and he's also seen them. He sees you and I. We serve a God who sees us, because there's many times in life where we think nobody sees us. Nobody knows what we do. Nobody knows what we've done. Nobody knows how we're feeling. Nobody knows the things that we are feeling, we're going through. But I'm here to proclaim. I'm here to proclaim to each and every one of you and myself that God is wanting to say to you this morning, I see you. I have seen you. I know what you're going through. There are times in our lives where come on, babe, flip for me, please. There are times that we go through life and we don't understand what is taking place, and we think nobody cares about you and I anymore. I had this thought. I penned this message a while back. It's been in my spirit for a long time. This is the first time I'm going to release it, and I'm releasing it to this church. And if you grab this morning, I really believe God will do something tremendously, magnificently powerful in your life this morning. Would you turn with me as well to the book of Genesis chapter 16? Are you there? Let me catch my... All right, Genesis chapter 16. How many have read this chapter? How many are familiar with this chapter? All right, so we won't go through the whole thing. It talks about Hagar, talks about Abraham, talks about Sarah as well. So we'll do this. We'll start at verse 4. I'm going to speed read. So Abraham had sexual relationships with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress Sarai with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, this is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show you who's wrong, you or me. This is a whole message, a couple of messages right there in itself. Abram replied, look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit. Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. Verse 7, the angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road to Shur. And the angel said to her, Hagar, Sarah's servant, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress Sarai. She replied, the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit her to her authority. Then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. And the angel also said, you are now pregnant, and I will give birth to, and you are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears, for the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone. Everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. Verse 13. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord, who had spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. She also said, have I truly seen the one who sees me? So the well was named Bir Lahoiroi, which means well, the living one who sees me. El Rohi is one of the words that we attributes of God. It can also be found between Kadesh and Bered. Now here's Hagar. Again, there's a lot of things going on there. We won't break that down, but I just want to share this with you. When Abram said, go and treat her as you will, she's your servant. You do a study on that. You know what? You know what Sarah did to Hagar? She beat the living tar out of her. she treated her so harshly, she beat her down. You've never heard that. Probably. If you've not, you're hearing it today. She beat her up pretty bad. And she leaves. She feels, nobody sees, nobody knows what's taking place in her life, but then she realizes as God speaks to her that God is a God who sees. So my thought to you, as God put this in my spirit, and I really want to say I'm so super serious about this. Guys, when you feel that no one knows you, God would want you to know today, God would want you to understand, and He's saying to you today, I see you. When you are feeling alone, and you're saying, nobody knows how I feel, nobody understands, you're in that well, or you're in that place, you're in the deserts of your life, God would want you to know that He is saying to you this morning that I see you. When you're feeling unwanted, when you're feeling that nobody wants you, when you're feeling that the whole world is against you, God would want you to know today that He's saying to you, I see you, because we serve a God that sees us. I see you. When you're feeling that nobody cares, God would want you to know and understand this morning that God sees you. He's saying to you this morning, I see you. I see what you're going through. I see what you've gone through. I know what you're going to go through the next day. But God is saying to you this morning, to you and I see you. When you're left alone, when you're left confused, when you're left in your basement, alone, wherever your hangout is, where you go, when you're in distress, God sees you. And He's saying to you this morning, I see you. God is telling someone here this morning, I've seen you when you've been in despair. I see you when you have everything externally, you're looking okay, good, the facade, the makeup is on, but on the inside, things are so turbulent, things are so dim, things are so harsh. But God is telling you today that God is saying, I see you. Just like He saw the Israelites when they were under harsh conditions, God saw them. He saw and He heard. He's seen your cry, He's heard your cries, and He's seen you personally. Whew. I'm telling you, we're going to have a good altar call today. He's seen you in your despair, but as I look at this church, again, I say this candidly and I say it openly. I say it with a good heart. I've seen ministry in different positions. I've been a lead pastor. I had been a pioneer pastor. I had been a missionary. I had been an assistant pastor. I have seen ministry in different perspectives. And when I see a place like this, it brings me back to the places where I started. It brings me back to a place where I'm so grateful for the people that come to the church because God sees them. Do you know why these churches like this still operate? They still continue to go forward and be fruitful? It's because of people like you. And I would like to say to you this morning that God sees all the things that you do. We used to call our people that are in ministry, Pastor, we used to call them workers. No? Oh, they're workers. Guys, they're not workers. They're volunteers. They're volunteering their time. They're volunteering their lives. They're volunteering their finances. And I would like to say, and as a pastor that have pioneered uh, churches, couple of churches like this. One of the reasons why churches like this is still making and still flourishing is because there are people, there are volunteers who give. And when we hear the word give, the first thing that comes is like money, money, money. Yes, let's go to money really a little bit, okay? When we have people that give, it keeps places like churches like this going. Okay, let me tell you about givers, financial givers. Where's my time, man? It changed up on me. There we go. There are those who give. Hear me? There are those who give just the required amount. Okay? And there are those who are generous. And there are those who are very generous. In places like this, it takes all when they give, to keep this thing running. It is true that God, I don't believe God has any favors, though. Pastor Art Valenzuela, I know Pastor Art, you keep telling everybody you're God's favorite. Pastor Art is with the Lord already. But it takes all of us, different types of people, different types of giving to keep this going. I would like to say this. When we were pastoring the church in San Pedro, one of the reasons why we were able to do it is because we had generous givers. Christina, I got a bum knee, guys. Sorry. One of the reasons why that church flourished, whether you realize it or not, I know you had business at one time, Keno. Okay? She was very generous. Nobody needs this, I mean, we do because we have to take care of the finances, right? Sister, I want you to know, many people's lives were changed. That church held on because of the generosity that you showed unto God. And I would want to tell you today that don't be afraid to venture out once again. If you've been stifled, if you believe that you can't do it again, God will want you to know that he sees you. He's seen what you can do. I don't know if that's something you want to pursue or not, but do not be stifled, because God has seen the generosity. God has seen your heart. God has seen everything that we've done. Are you understanding me? God sees how much we give. God sees how much we don't give. God sees our generosity. God sees what we do. I want to encourage this church, people in this church, to be generous givers. Generosity is what makes the world go round. Churches go round. Again, it's just not financially, yes, but in everything else, it's going to take people with regular jobs. In our church in Whittier, we have people that have regular jobs. We have professionals who have college education with college degrees with professional wages. We have business owners. Not a big church. There are people, I know I have one brother who owns his own business. I don't know how many more we have, but we have different types of people. We've got regular people, minimum wage jobs, to, again, like I said, professionals and business owners. And I would want to encourage each and every one here this morning to continue to give unto the Lord, because God sees us. God sees what we do. If you're a business, if you own a business, you're such a tremendous asset in this church, in any church. It's such a an honorable place, if I can say that. Because God sees what you give. God sees what you do. God sees your heart. I know, again, our church, we've been in existence about a year, a little bit longer perhaps than you. We're continually building our building fund, pressing it pretty hard. I believe now we're like about 110,000 in the building fund. And that's just because, we've got people that continue to give, generous givers. And one day, if you guys will have to leave this place, if you guys would have a building fund set aside or working on a building fund, that would greatly, tremendously help you guys out. Again, I don't know where you guys are at right now, but I'm telling you, it's because of people like you who God sees that will keep this going. Are we okay this morning? Amen. 2 Corinthians chapter 8. I won't stay here on this topic too long. It's about the call to generous giving. In 2 Corinthians chapter 8, Paul says, here's my advice. Verse 10, we'll just go verse 10. Here's my advice. It would be good for you to finish what you started a year ago. Last year you were the first who wanted to give, and you were the first one to begin doing it. Now you should finish what you started. Let the eagerness you showed in the beginning be matched now by your giving. Give in proportion to what you have. Give in proportion to what you have. Again, our churches are comprised of people with different social, economic statuses. So God says, Paul is saying, and give according to what you have. Whatever you give is acceptable if you give it eagerly, and give according to what you have, not what you don't have. God is not expecting you to give from what you don't have, but what you have, whatever status you're in the this tier or that tier, business or what have you. If you give according to what you have, God sees that. Of course, I don't mean you giving that your giving should make life easy for others and hard for yourselves. God knows that. God doesn't want you to be broke, but you give proportionately. I only mean that there should be some equality. Right now, you have plenty and can help those who are in need. Later, they will have plenty and can share with you when you need it. In this way, things will be equal. I'm here to encourage you. God sees. God sees what you're giving. God sees how much you've given. God sees how much you continue to give. And again, this is not just about finances, it's also about your time. The reason why churches like this and bigger churches continue to run is because there are people who give of their precious time. Time is precious. You can't take time back. Have you heard of the Pedro principle? The Pedro principle says that 80% of the work done in any place, that's a church, is done by 20% of the people. It's a rule, even in the world. If that goes for this church, that means only 20% of the people are holding up or doing up what's done here. And I want to encourage you and this church this morning, to continue to give, again, not financially, but your time, because your time, God sees what you and I do for him. Are we okay? Are we okay? Now that we know that God sees you and I see you, and God is telling you and I that he sees what you do, I want to change change the gear to the state of the Israelites as God saw them. In our text, it says, "Then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave masters. Yes, I am aware of their suffering." If you would take a look in the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, the people of God, they were fruitful. They multiplied. And God had chosen Abraham to father. Let's just use that word. The father of many nations. They were destined to bless the world. But a new king takes place, comes along, and he puts a lot of burdens upon the Israelites. Work should be, hopefully if you have a good job, it should be enjoyable, yes? If you enjoy your job, if you have a good job, it should be enjoyable. But what has taken place was the Egyptian masters had beat up on the Israelites so ruthlessly. We can see that in the book of Exodus chapter 1, verse 13 and 14. They made their lives bitter. There's the word mara in the book of Exodus chapter 1, verse 14. And they made their life so hard and cruel that they were in misery, they were suffering, and that their spirits were broken. Exodus chapter 6, verse 9. Their spirits were broken. Life had turned into misery. The harshness of the oppression, the harshness of what they had to go through had become so cruel. I would like to say that their spiritual life, their economic life, and their status in life, they were in ICU. Now God was saying, I see you, but then I also know that you are in ICU, intensive care unit. Has it ever happened in your life where life conditions get so hard, problems come up so forcefully upon us, economically, relationally, marriage-wise, relationship-wise, friends-wise, we're in a state of ICU. We're in a state of intensive care unit. And I would like to say this morning that there may be some that are in ICU this morning. Maybe you've been in ICU for a long time. You've been in an intensive care unit. Nobody knows, but God has seen you. God sees you. But your state of affairs, marriage-wise, children-wise, financially-wise, occupationally wise, many things, perhaps it's in intensive care. You know, ICU patients, they need more attention. They need special care. They need special procedures. More in-depth work needs to be done with them. And so can I say to you this morning, God is saying ICU, because some of you are in ICU. And it's been going on for a long time. Just like the Israelites were. They were in their harsh conditions. They were oppressed. Life was bitter. Life was hard. Yes, God saw them, but physically, emotionally, their situation were in intensive care. And there are times we find our lives in that unit. Where you and I, we need the Spirit of God. We allow the Spirit of God. We allow our Master, we allow our God to do an operation in our lives. Where we get to a place where we say, man, that's it. I need help. I've been in need of help. Can you just imagine? Do your own study, do your own reading with that. These people have been crying out to God, God, somebody help us, man. We're in this desperate need. And I would like to say, perhaps there's some people here, maybe you've been in ICU for a while now. But what you and I, we need to do is we need to allow God to give him the liberty to do an operation in us. Our scripture says, I've seen them. I'm going to send you to help them. God will send people our way. God will send his word. God will send his Holy Spirit. God will send your pastor. God will send a friend. God will send you someone to help you. But what we need to do is we need to be willing to finally say, okay, I'm there. Been there. I know I need help. And now we're going to allow God to do what only he can do. We just had our conference July. I was in ICU, folks. Been pastoring for a long time. But I got to a place, my spirit got to a place where I was in intensive care. Not in the hospital, but in my spirit, my mind, I needed God. I go to conference. We're in the air, right? It's all right. Okay. That's always been my. I can't be as vulnerable as I want to be at times, and vulnerability helps people out. Ready to check out. Let me just put it that way. I can use other terms. Ready to check out. Go to conference, and I say, God, let me see what you've got. I've only told several friends that, man, hey, this is the state I'm in. I'm like, vulnerable. This is the state I'm in. And they're like, wow, bro. Prayed for me. Last day of conference on a Friday night, for those of you that are familiar with our conferences, if you'll follow our conference, you get it Friday night. Pastor Edwin Melendez calls me out. He tells me the same thing, exactly the same things I'm going through. Brother, you've been thinking of changing. You've been thinking of moving, changing. God wants you to know that God wants you to stay where you're at. I'm talking about guys, I'm like, didn't talk to him, didn't speak to him. But God sends people to help us because he sees you and I see you, and I also see you, that you're in ICU. Which brings me to my third point, and we'll play some great music afterwards, not yet, and we're going to have a good altar call. Can we do that? Let me, again, vulnerability is something that we are sometimes afraid of because we have to expose ourselves. But I'm telling you, when we do that, it brings healing, not only to ourselves, it brings healing to a lot of people, because a lot of people don't want to admit that they're in ICU. After you get in your spirit this morning that God is saying to you, I see you, and you realize that you're in ICU, third thing I want you to understand is, I see me. Can you say that? I see me. About 2.5 weeks ago, I underwent an eye procedure. A little embarrassed to say what it is because the nurse said, you're too young. You're too young to be having that type of issue. This happened, scared me when I was looking at the mirror one day. Like, I can't see myself. All I see is like haze. I look back, and about 14 years, between 12 to 14 years ago, when we were in Stockton, California, assisting Pastor Art, we went to the grocery store, and I'm looking at the aisles, and I go, why is everything so dim? Like, I can't, like, just dim. So back then, I realized now that I was building cataracts. If you guys know what cataracts are proteins that build on your lens. It's kind of like looking through that window, and it's frosty, okay, and things are, you can't really see well, like you can't really see anything. Like this is one of my smaller Bibles because I thought like, let me just get a bigger print. This is giant print, baby. Giant print. This is the biggest you can get. This is my biggest one, and I bought one even bigger just so I guess I just need to get a bigger print. That wasn't it at all. I find out after I got my procedure, guys, I can see. And that's just with one eye. The next one will be September 16, was another 3. Guys, I can see. I'm like, what I've been missing out on for 14 years. When I saw you guys in San Pedro, I was like, wasn't really seeing you guys. Now I can see. Guys, you know how bad it is? I thought my phone is bad, awful. I can use another word, right? I couldn't see that before. It's like, can you pinch this out? How can you make this bigger? I couldn't see that, but now, guys, I can read that. I can see. The reds are so red. Like, oh my goodness, I've never seen it so red. The purple is so purple. The blacks are so black. All because I needed an operation. All along, I was thinking like, life just smells. But all along, life is okay. Life isn't too bad. Because with God, all things are possible. We know that God is a good God. Things are okay. But what's going on within us is we built these things within our lives. And we're looking at things not in the way that they need to be seen. I'm telling you guys, I'm like a baby. I'm like a new man. I can see. Give me a... Sorry, guys. I can see these things. You get your Coca-Cola thing, like, I can see those little things that I've never seen that ever. I'm like, it's gone so, and that's just with one eye, guys. And so when I'm doing this, I'm like checking people out with my bionic eye, I'm doing this. And then when I close this, it's like, everything's just hazy again. It's like, whoa, what's going on? It's like, it's like, because I got a cool lens that they put in there. It's like I'm wearing sunglasses all day in the evening. It's like, I can talk about it. I can put 10 messages on this. It's like I'm looking like the world like in there's a lens. Like everything's like, is it really that? Look at that. Guys, you guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing because I'm seeing in HD. It's like when you go to Costco, you see one TV, it's like, Then you go to the HD, Ultra HD, it's like, whoa! That's how I've been for the past 2.5 weeks. Like, whoa! Life is like, oh my goodness! But you know what? I would have been so bummed out. I'm going to close in a little bit. I would have been so bummed out because through the insurance, I finally got insurance, guys. After 40 years, man, I finally got it. Thank you, babe. Thank you. Through her insurance, I was given the option of, we can put a lens on your eye where you can see far, okay, but you won't be able to see close. Or we can put a lens where you can see close, but you won't be able to see far. No guarantee, you still have to get glasses. So I'm thinking, oh man, I don't do that. You guys ever drive when you're like, You ever drive, you're looking over there and you look at your phone, it's like, whoa. So there's a third option where you can get a lens where you can see far, medium, and close up. I elected to do that. But it cost me. It cost me a whole lot. A whole lot. But I would be so bummed out if I elected for the freebie. Thank you, government. If I would have gone for the far, and then I won't be able to see my phone, I'd be like, where's my spectacles? Where are my glasses? You know, I don't know if it works like that for everybody, but I think that's what it does. Or if I can see close and I can't see far, I would be like, I'd be so bummed out. I'd tell my wife, oh man, I would be so, because man, I'm telling you guys, I wake up every morning, it's like, it's a whole new world. It's like, oh, everything is just so nice. But you know what? I had to pay the price. Can I encourage you today? It's time for you now to have your operation. It's time for you now to pay the price. Because you've been in ICU for so long and God has seen you all this time. God has been gracious to you. God has loved you. God has been pulling for you. God has been sending people your way. But then now it's just, you just have to pay the price now. Even just, the price could be as easy as making an altar call finally. It could be as easy as like, God, here it is. Here I am, God. Do the procedure on me now, God. Guys, I'm telling you, it's like I look at life like, you guys don't see what I see. I'm like, and I'm enjoying life. And I was like, oh man, I'll be all. So I tell our church, when I'm doing this, I'm not checking your wife out. I'm not checking people out. It's like, I'm looking at the world in a beautiful way. So God sent this Filipino in this beautiful city of San Pedro to tell you this morning, he's telling you, I see you. Everything that you've done, everything that you've given, not just finances, your time, your life. I've invested 40 years of my life in the ministry, in this thing. It's a long time. God has seen all that. Just like God has seen all the times that God has invested, you've invested in the kingdom of God. But it's time now. Sister Julie, if you can play some background music. It's time now. I'm not just going to say some. I'm going to say for all of us to pay the price. It's not that life is that bad. It's just our eyes are that bad. So Paul says in the book of Ephesians, he says that the eyes of your understanding the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, 17 to 19 out of the NIV. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people, and his incomparably great power for us who live. Another whole thing to unpack, but point being, and I say this from my heart to this church, can we come to a place this morning where we can unpack our baggages? We can say, God, man, I've been crying out to you. I know, I understand that you see me. And I also understand that I've been in ICU for a long time. But Lord, I want to see me. One thing that is so great about my eyes right now, I can see a lot of things. I can see my car is like, I can see all these things in my car, like, ooh. My windshield's like, man, I can see all the dirt. It's not even that dirty, and it's like, I see everything. It's like, it could be good or bad, you know what I mean? But I prayed, and I'm praying within me. I said, God, I don't want to see people's faults, because I can see that easily, especially with my eye. I want to see me. I want to see what's wrong with me. I want to see my faults. Because more often than not, it's not people's fault. It's not life. It's us. The eyes of our hearts have been so, they're marred by protein or hardships of life, bad marriages and bad this and bad that and bad relationships, and we blame it on everything else. But God, I said, God, I want to see me. The best gift that you can give your wife, your children, your friends is a healed soul. I'm one of those that I'm already, saving for my gifts for the children, my wife. Money is put aside already. Come Christmas, like, I don't want to be broke. Like, I'm sorry, I can't give you anything. I'm putting things aside already. I want to give them good gifts. But the best gift that I can give them today, this Christmas, is a healed George. Healed soul. That's a whole bunch of messages with that. But my heart that I want to give to this church today, can you allow God to see you? It's time. It's time. I'm looking forward to a knee replacement now. It's like, man, if this is this good, like, ooh, man, how good will a knee replacement be? I've got a torn rotator cuff. Oh, how good would it be to be able to do things? I've got a torn tendon, Achilles tendon. How good would that procedure be? But I'm going to have to pay a price. I've got stuff going on dental. I haven't had insurance for 30, 40 years, man. I'm like, but if I'm just willing to pay the price, if I'm willing to just not postpone it anymore, it's like, man, what I can do. God is saying to many of us, all of us say, what I can do for this church, what I can do for you, the things that I can do for your marriage, the things that I can do for you personally. If you would just not allow me to get in there, let me operate in you. Let me do something. It may not happen overnight. It might not happen in 10 minutes. That's how long it took the surgery. It may take some time, but at least now you're willing to say, God, here I am. God, I want to change. God, I want to do something this year. I don't want to be the same one. You can't be like the Israelites where they were crying out for years upon years. And God comes on the scene. Would you this morning, can I beg you, I beseech you with all my heart, it's time. This is the day that the Lord has made. If you would just be willing to just give up, pay the price. Man, your marriage might not be healed overnight, but you're willing to say, God, I see me. It's not her fault. It's not her fault. It's not his fault. It's not my mom. It's not my dad's. It's not been the church. God, it's me. Let God allow you to see. Second marriage. We're still on the air.